Hello, Insane Frame here, back with another video. We've been hearing a lot of Fallout recently, and I kind of want to go back to the Xcom franchise, and what better place to start than with the spark in Xcom 2. So today we ask, can you beat Xcom 2's campaign with a spark? Now the spark, for those of you that don't know, is a very powerful unit. It's like Iron Man from Marvel, but in an Xcom game. The aliens have mechs, so why not Xcom? But all joking aside, the pros of these guys, they hit hard, are immune to mind control, and have no need to climb as they have jet boosters, and with a little bit of utility they can hack remotely. Not very good, mind you, but the fact that they can still hack is a good thing. However, the huge downside for us is that we can't send our sparks to the training center and they don't have item slots, but we do have a heavy weapon slot to make up for it. However, this poses a problem, so to make up for it we'll be using an assistant of sorts who will be our skulljacking assistants to advance the story, but at that point they won't be able to assist in combat in any way, shape or form. And lastly, we're going to use a mod to start with a spark. This way we get the full benefit of using sparks right from the get-go, and we have to still take care of our sparks. But with the intro done, let's quickly go over the rules. We're only allowed one spark. One assistance is allowed, but only to assist us with story missions, otherwise no help is allowed. Covert ops are allowed, and we're going to be playing on commander level difficulty. So with the intro out the way, let's get to it. We complete the first mission without any problems, and one of our soldiers becomes our assistant. We decide to excuse everybody, and we only have 2 people left on the roster, which is our assistant and the spark. A plus here is we can actually use our assistant in covert ops, but the spark will have to be our boots on the ground and doing all the fighting. And of course his name is the best name ever, Boaty McBoatface. We decide to go pay a visit to Lily Shen, who's pretty cool, and we also get to see her counterpart, Dr. Richard Tygan, who's a man of research. It's time to get a facility up and running, and naturally the resistance ring is constructed, and after a couple of research projects it's front and centre as we get our first guerrilla ops. We got nothing to worry about as our spark gets deployed on the ground. We see 2 troopers and they get a rocket to the face. Good times. Once they're dealt with, our concealment is broken, but we get 2 kills. We can't really argue with that. We stomp on over to the device and everyone is revealed. We decide to use overdrive and kill a sectoid with no qualms, and the enemy don't really do much. They do get a hit on us however, and we simply jump up a level and cut line of sight to start being a literal wrecking ball. With our high damage, just one-shotting everyone from a higher ledge, including a sonic zombie and another couple of troopers, everything is fine. The sectoids decide to wake his friend up, but when he does, he gets a very big gun with a very big barrel shoot him in the face, making the mission a success. Needless to say, we get promoted and we go for adaptive aim, so we no longer suffer aim penalties whilst using overdrive, a must-have perk for us to deal more reliable damage. Mr. X shows up, hello Mr. X, and we continue on with an engineer for our troubles. We get a breakthrough that reduces the laboratory cost by 50%, which is fantastic. The resistance ring is constructed, so we now have access to covert ops. More early game advantages reveal themselves as the Reapers have a mission for us with a scientist on the line, which is what we need most right now. So we hop on in. It's a very easy mission as we can just take out lots of the loss with overdrive and then take them all out in one turn. Panic button if you will, but then when we rendezvous with the scientists and manage to use the enemy movement against them by blocking their pathway, we then use our time to use a free shooting gallery to gain lots of XP. However, we do have the loss do 1 damage to us due to us having armor, and rather than getting carried away, I think it's time we go as we've had our fill. Better safe than sorry, as they say. Back at base though, we do get another promotion, and this time it's quite a tough call, but in the end I went with strike, as heavy weapon damage is nice, however strike is another attack that gives us more options, and as we upgrade the spark it gets better, so high risk high reward. But better yet, a scientist is now in our employ, and with the lab coming along, things are going great. We begin establishing contact to other areas, and we get some basic research done and get the radio towers underway. The aliens decide to initiate the first retaliation mission, and thanks to our spark space stats, we're ready for it. We get to the mission and we see our first chosen, the Warlock, and to be fair, this is actually pretty good for us as we're a robot and we're immune to their psionic attacks, so he's not really a threat to us. However, we do need to take him out pronto. However, we see 2 enemies and we decide to gun down the priest, inflicting a chunk of damage. The priest decides to buff his buddy, which makes our job easier, so we use our new skill to deliver a good old hydraulic hook to the priest, taking 2 enemies out with 1 stone, ladies and gentlemen. We even get a scope for our troubles, which is superb. We then see the spectral zombie and they're taken out. We get to all the civilians in the area no problem, and a faceless shows up and he's not up for talking. And also the Warlock summons another zombie right on our doorstep. We decide on our turn to shoot said zombie and save more civilians. The faceless takes a shot at us, dealing minor damage, but thanks to our armor, we respond by shooting them for damage. They retaliate with a melee attack and we have to show them how it's done and give them the good hook, knocking them down into a puddle. We then kill another zombie and save a civilian, but when a sectoid and a trooper show up, we decide to use our rocket launcher to kill the trooper. Why? Because it's cool, and I didn't want to take a 60% shot. The sectoid resurrects his friend and we go up on the roof and we kill another zombie, and the sectoid gets a lovely left hook to the wall. Good job, Boaty McBoatface. The Warlock then shows up after his buddy is done for, and we decide we don't want to put up with him, so we go back to the roof, reload our weapon and use Overwatch. The summoned trooper gets to the roof and gets it shot in the face as Boaty McBoatface outsmarts him. We get a laser sight, which is amazing for us, and we decide to find the Warlock and use Overdrive. We find him, he's in a very bad position as we get 2 decent shots placed into him, doing very heavy damage. We make him run for his life, and which is genuinely terrible, but he runs off and uses Spectral Army, which summons a soldier, and Boatface once again uses Overwatch to level the playing field. So Spectral Army wears off, so we make things worse for him and shoot the explosive tank. The Warlock retreats and runs off again and manages to land a hit, doing 1 damage. However, with that out the way, we do the right thing and end this carnage by using the hydraulic smash into the Warlock's face, winning us the mission. And this ability is amazing and it'll only get better with upgrades. Back at base, we're wounded, but more importantly, we have a promotion and we decide to get Intimidate. So when targeted by an attack, the enemy has a chance to panic, which is very strong for us, adding an extra layer of defense, which is very nice indeed. Mr. X has high praises for us, so things are ticking forwards, which is good. We approach the end of the month and we get our resistance orders, so we decide to get +1 resistant contact, always a good thing to have. The good news keeps on coming as the lab is finished and we get it started immediately, and to add to it, a new region is also discovered. However, we also spot the assassin, so we know our next target, but we make sure to get magnetic weapons underway. We want to get more excavating done and start building comms. However, guerrilla ops are abound, so we select our mission. We go ahead and we also attach a scope to our rifle that has +5 aim, as every little helps. And once Boaty McBoatface is on the ground, we simply sprint to the objective and get the hack off. We spot a couple of turrets along the way, and once the hack is complete, we decide to Overwatch, and just in time as we manage to get a confirmed kill. There's bad news as the chosen assassin shows up and we see everyone come in and try their luck, but Overdrive activates and we use a rocket for 2 confirmed kills with pretty fireworks. The sectoids haven't learnt their lesson as we use the Boatface hook, and sure enough they aren't doing much anymore. We decide to go on the defensive and use Overwatch, and during the enemy's turn our Overwatch shot goes off to get another kill to the tally. We're doing well, but since we're inside the train there's only 1 person in front of us, so it's fine. He gets a chip off the old block and we see a couple more troopers show up. Since we're smart, we just jump onto the roof of the train and take 1 more out. However, we learn that Advent stun lancers are quite the problem as they hit us and stun us for a turn, and sure enough we're okay, but we decide to go gun them in the face, but they survive. Our Intimidate comes in handy as the lancer hits us and fails their check, and the chosen assassin decides to summon a trooper and uses a grenade to blind us. We prepare on our turn and the chosen assassin closes in, so we have a fight on top of the train. We decide to use Overdrive and use the Boatface hook to deal a good amount of damage, and use both of our remaining actions to shoot the assassin, dealing its entire health bar in damage in 1 turn for doubting the Boatface hook. Once that's done, the Lancer proves they are even more dangerous than the Assassin and deal 4 whopping damage and stun us. However, we then have some shots fired and they miss us and we kill the Lancer. The last trooper misses us once more and then we just outright kill them, completing the mission. That was interesting for sure. At base we are banged up, but we get another promotion. This time we go for repair, so we can repair as our first action during a mission up to 2 times for 6 HP, a extremely useful perk as it effectively doubles our health bar in missions. We also scan the black market, so it's now open, and there's research to rush magnetic weapons, always nice. We get a supply raid mission, so we know what to do, and our Spark can just keep doing missions. Boating Boatface gets a supply crate, and the enemies don't use any attacks that hurt us, and the only one that can gets intimidated by us and shoots their friend. On our turn, we use overdrive to launch a rocket, doing an excellent amount of damage, and when all is said and done, we see their Rupert and decide to give him a wallop to the face. He did not survive, such is the way of the Boaties McBoat hook. Advent decide to use fire, that doesn't really work on us, so good job, and in return we make sure they go off with a bang. The enemies are dealt with and we start going for the supply. The mission goes very well and the Viper King decides to show up, which is the least of our worries. It can't really do anything against us, it can't really grapple us or poison us, so if anything it's a free promotion I guess. So we just start attacking it, and sure enough it struggles to do anything until we get our abilities off cooldown, and then we just give it the Boatface hook. It's the only thing that's taken 2 Boatface hooks so far, so well done Viper King, you're truly a worthy adversary until we meet again. When we get back to it, it's quite a haul for us, which is fantastic, allowing us to upgrade our soldiers, so it's all good. Magnetic weapons is researched, so we can now research Gort's weapons. In the meantime, a Reaper mission comes up and we can get some resources here. We go into the mission and the VIP is located very quickly. They're in good hands, and we then decide to start shooting zombies from up high, where we can take a couple of them out, and then we decide to go meet one of the soldiers who we recruit into the team. So we can now finally do some covert ops. We use Boating Boatface to hold off the loss as they bog down Advent, whilst we can make our getaway thanks to the loss, as they keep the aliens away and we make sure Boating Boatface clears the way for our people. Manage to get another soldier for our troubles on top of the bridge, and then everyone is in range of the evac and everyone manages to get out, with 3 personnel getting away, allowing us not only a scientist but also 2 extra operatives for our covert ops, so an excellent haul for us, and Boating Boatface evacs out, ending the mission. When we get back, we get our new operatives to work immediately and start by doing some operations to earn some promotions. The research team come through with course weaponry, so Boating Boatface now has tier 2 weaponry. We also get plated armor started, so our Spark can have more armor and health as well, as improving his intimidate ability, so it's a very good research for us to do. The world map also provides another +1 resistance contact, so it's going extremely well. The comms is up and running as well as a power relay, so everything is going fantastically. Guerrilla Ops is banned and we decide to stop scanning times being increased whilst also getting a scientist. We have tier 2 weapons, so it's all good. During the mission, the enemy get a very well placed rocket launched against them, and when our arrival is announced, they can't really do anything because we hit the mech, and once the flame trooper and the mech both miss their shots, we take the mech out and back up from the flame trooper, shooting him in the face in cool fashion like an action hero. His buddy also gets hit, and when the enemy pod activates, one just gets shot outright and the Viper wastes its turn and the mech misses us, so we decide to shoot back, showing him how it's done, which is excellent. However, the Viper does land a hit on us for 2 damage, our Intimidate procs and makes him run away. The enemy mech then gets a taste of overdrive as it is shot to pieces, which is 1 less enemy, and the enemy Lancer gets the Boatface hook, so we're all good. The Viper is panicked, so we end up wiping it out with no problems, and when we're done with the mission, we go back to base. We get a promotion, and this one is the big one. We get Hunter Protocol, so anytime we reveal any enemy, we have a 33% chance of taking a free Overwatch shot. This makes us much more dangerous when approaching enemies, as well as making our damage skyrocket. We only have 1 more rank to go though, so yes. We also decide to upgrade the science lab, so we're fully staffed now, and with an extra scientist, we can rest easy on the research from here on out. Our covert ops comes back and we get ourselves a skirmisher, and we also get a resistance order inside job, gaining us plus 10% intel gains. We get our second retaliation mission, but this time we decide to equip a superior repeater. For all it's worth, we now have a 15% chance of an insta-kill per shot. Not that it really matters, but any advantage we can get is really good, especially a couple of free instant kills. We also bought the tier 2 spark frame, so Boating Boatface is looking great with extra armor and stats to boot, so let's go try our new kit out. When we arrive, we have some resistance help us out, but we use overdrive as everyone shows up and manages to take a couple of alien numbers down. So Lancer and a and Mouton both go down to our firepower. The Resistance then do some damage against the aliens accordingly. The Resistance move to help out more civilians, which is nice, and we get a spectral zombie explode in our face. Lovely. We make our way to the remaining civilians, and the Resistance actually start taking out some enemies, which is always good. So they're certainly pulling their weight. We have the Warlock summon a zombie, but this time we get up high so it can't reach us, and take out a Lancer. Always great. We also get an Overwatch shot during the enemy turn thanks to our perk, and do heavy damage against another Lancer. And when it's over, the Resistance pick them off, so 2 for the price of 1, I guess. We unfortunately get another zombie explode on us, dealing more damage as we have no armor, but the Resistance really put in the work as the Advent mech takes damage from many sources. It begins to add up, and after a few volleys, it's defeated by the Resistance, which is quite the warm welcome. On our turn, we decide to heal up and shoot the Warlock. However, we miss our second shot, and he decides to summon a Trooper in, but he is a fool as the Resistance starts shooting him for some damage, which is hilarious, which opens up the Warlock for the same fate as the last time. The infamous boat hook is perfectly balanced as he's knocked out of existence and the Resistance kill the Trooper, and then we have a pile of goo from Scooby-Doo say hello. We get some loot and decide to Overwatch the bog monster as it comes at us, and we miss again, but it's not all bad as the Resistance start taking pot shots, and when it's our turn we can one-shot it, completing the mission, so it's all marvellous. When it's the end of the month, the assassin is growing to be more of a concern, so we go ahead and enable ballistics modelling so we can increase our research speed with weapons by 15%, which will be very helpful. But we need to track down the assassin and the Warlock pronto, but we get an engineer from the overworld thanks to a scan, and we also buy Illyrian crystals from the black market so we can start the journey to tier 3 weapons. We also begin tracking the assassin, and with another promotion on the line, things are going okay. We finish the op and we unlock an order which allows labs to improve research times by 20%, and the next op is locating the assassin part 2. We also upgrade the Resistance ring to get another slot for an order ready for more orders. However, a little bit of time passes and we're back with guerrilla ops. We decide to counter ambushes on covert ops and get some supplies, as the other 2 events don't really affect us, so it's okay. We go into the mission and place ourselves close to the objective. We see many sectoids and we manage to get 2 Overwatch shots due to our perk. Managed to kill one of them and the enemy pile in on us and get some good damage. However, a total of 3 enemies fall for our Intimidate, as Intimidate scales for our spark armor, so a Trooper, a sectoid and a Lancer are all now panicked accordingly. So we use a rocket to damage the Trooper and shred the mech's armor. When that's done, we fire on the mech and do our favourite thing and punch the Lancer, taking him out. Since everyone is panicked, they can't do anything, and we get a free turn and reload and kill the Trooper. The sectoid is shot on our turn and we move closer, and the sectoid decides to resurrect his friend. We blow the relay up so the timer is no longer a thing, but then the Viper King is present for round 2. And 2 more Vipers also show up by us. We heal up and the Viper King shoots us for a bit of damage. We then try breaking line of sight and punch a Viper and then heal up again. On our next turn, the sectoid wants to invite people to the party, but we say no and shoot him. The Vipers have something to say about that, so the Vipers get shot at, but then manages to retaliate against us. It's not going too well, however we do panic it and it does cower in the corner. And when it's back to us, we shoot it, kill it, and the ruler doesn't do anything, so we use overdrive and shoot once for damage, and the second time the ruler gets executed, all in a day's work. That was a close call. We continue clearing rooms and find an exposed power coil, so pop a power plant on top of it. The enemy get a point added to the avatar progress, so we decide to launch a covert op against them to counter it. Illyrian research is complete and we get plasma rifles research as fast as possible, and we get our second exposed power coil excavated. A raid mission is next, so we keep going and our jet touches down, and our first pod is 3 mechs, which isn't great. So we overdrive, use a rocket and run away, cutting line of sight. A quick heal and we go up and take one of them out. And on the enemy's turn, we tank a fair few hits, but nothing we can't handle. We use our last heal and make another mech sorry. The last one misses us and we decide to gun them down accordingly. A difficult but handled situation. We move around and we see the next pod. We get 2 mechs and get an Overwatch shot on one of them, so we decide to use overdrive to get a good shot in, take one mech out and walk away. The second mech gets hit by us and it returns fire, which isn't fun, but it is what it is. When we get our next enemy, we get a little unlucky as we use overdrive again and shoot twice, only to graze our enemy twice and they disappear again. So we end up looking, but we find them and do the bossy hook. They are destroyed, and as for the last pod, we get hit, and when they come to us, we manage to destroy one mech no problem. We then manage to notch a second kill by using our overdrive again by shooting twice into mech, which is amazing. And the last guy disappears, so we just stay put until everything comes off cooldown. We manage to sight the guy and use a burst fire and clock him out cold, with a boat hook winning the day on a single HP. That was a very tough mission. But after 104 kills and 10 missions, Boaty McBoatface gets his final promotion, and this is the big one. We decide to go with Nova, so we can now emit a blast of energy as a free action. Our first one is free, but any time we take Nova again as an action, we have 2 damage. But we deal consistent damage to our opponents, so it's a very powerful ability, but high risk, high reward. The loot is a truckload of resources and we can upgrade to tier 3 no problem. We'll also begin getting the proving grounds constructed, as I should have done this a long time ago, but we have Illyrian cores now, so we can think about upgrading heavy weapons. A council mission is afoot and it awards a lot of intel, so we crack on with it. When we start, we see 3 Vipers and we decide to punch one in the face, always good. This ability is just becoming a favourite of mine, FYI. The Vipers get a shot off on us, so we show them what for as we heal up with a repair and then execute the Viper. Let that be a lesson to you. However, they don't learn their lesson as they spit poison at us, which we're immune to. When we get to the evac zone, we get our scientists evac out, and on the enemy turn, we get an overwatch shot on the priest and even get a second one. However, when it's our turn, we decide to shoot the mech and execute them, which is awesome. We shoot the priest and miss, but it does play in our favour as the floor is torn up and he falls to his death. Xcom, ladies and gentlemen, perfectly fine. We also get some amazing loot, a advanced autoloader. However, we see the Berserk Queen, so it's time to start dealing some damage, and well, I don't know what to say here other than the Berserker Queen gets executed. The idea was to shed armor, get a shot off and escape, but this just works out perfectly fine. But good job, Boaty McBoatface. We have a soldier overwatch, so we use our repair to heal up, and the unlucky sod gets a rocket to the face and falls to his death, which is, well, getting a lot of that in this mission, but the enemy don't learn, so they must fall and break their legs. Anyway, we evac out and the mission is over and we get some amazing loot, so it's really cool. Plasma rifles gets researched and we continue to tier 3 weapons, which is like Speedy Gonzales now. The proving grounds is now finished and we decide to get experimental heavy weapons. We get Gorilla Ops and it rears its head, so we have 2 dark events that don't really affect us in combat or in the overworld, so we decide to go and counter the hidden event. Boaty's rifle gets an advanced autoloader, so we now get 2 free reloads, which will help our action economy, subtle yet powerful. During the mission, we don't have a timer, which is good, and we scout a patrol. We spot a Mouton, and we get our Overwatch shot off, and we get a second one that destroys him outright. We then deal with the sectoid, and we use overdrive and a hydraulic hook. We move on closer to this other sectoid, and we use one of our free reloads and get a crit, so there's no longer a problem. The assassin chosen shows up. It's all okay as we decide to go into a truck, and she is not happy with that. So summons a mech to try and reason with us, but we go ahead and hack and get a +20 to our hacking. So our Spark now has 40 hacking. Go Boaty McBoatface. We shoot the mech once and the mech realizes it's outclassed. We come out and use Nova to destroy the mech for free. We then punch the assassin in the face, dealing lots of damage, and the assassin is an idiot and goes to the truck for cover. And if my playthrough with the Reapers taught me anything, vehicles deal damage, so we use overdrive and we decide to use Nova to do a double whammy, destroying the truck for extra damage and also being far enough away where we don't suffer any damage. Once the armor is gone, we just double tap the assassin as we just deal so much damage to them. We wait for our cooldowns and go find the last pod, which is a short distance away, and we get a prop for Overwatch, and since we've revealed them, we overdrive and we finish the first guy and hook punch the Lancer, giving him a taste of his own medicine. The Spectre is found and we gun and hook him, so he's down and out. And when we're back, Mr. X says we've countered a really bad dark event which would have powered up the Chosen, so good riddance. We also construct our second power relay on an exposed power coil, which is really good. Covert Ops has come back and an item which is a superior hair trigger is added to our inventory. This will help us immensely. How the research is done, we now have tier 3 weaponry, so anything that's not tanky will die at range. However, we now need to deal with the Avatar project as the Doomsday timer is counting down. But we've slowly been approaching the facility, so it's all good. And we go ahead and start the mission. For this, we mainly stay to the ledge and play very defensively. So we go ahead and use overdrive for a couple of kills and we start killing sectoids. And we even one-shot a turret, so we're in the clear. We decide to jump in the facility and use overdrive to shoot a mech and deal damage. However, we do kill another trooper and the priest does shoot us. However, it does get panicked. So once that's done, we decide to take out the mech, and once he's done for, we have a panicked priest. We move next to him and use Nova, and we collapse the ceiling so the Spectre shows up. All we do is we just use another Nova as it's a free action and costs 2 HP each time we use it. We then shoot it down, everything is clear now, so we're all good to place the charges. Since we blasted the roof off the place literally, we can place the evac inside and get out of there. The Avatar's progress is reduced by a whopping 3 points, giving us some breathing room. And since our operative has been promoted to major, we can now go after the stronghold, so we go for the assassin first, as they can already summon units, so if they get any stronger, it's not going to be good for us. While that's happening, we begin building radio beacons. Our heavy weapons research comes through and we get a flamethrower, which is actually really good. I decide to go after the assassin, and once we're in the stronghold, we get our first pod. We get an Overwatch shot off, kill one of the Advent personnel, and we use overdrive to shoot the remaining trooper, and the flame trooper gets his just desserts, allowing us to kill him outright. As for the officer, we hide around the corner and use Overwatch. However, more of the alien forces come through, with a berserker included, which is not good. We decide to run away and kill the officer whilst maintaining the high ground. Everyone comes in and we decide to just run and find the ascension gate as quickly as possible. As luck would have it, it's just around the corner, so we make headway. We just use it to escape into the inner sanctum. We go ahead and meet the assassin, they have their little cutscene and it's all good. Once the cutscene's over, we go in and the assassin reveals themselves. We decide to close in and blank them, and we manage to get a crit off on the assassin, so we're in a good spot. The assassin decides to summon in an Advent mech and throw a grenade to blind us, so we decide to move closer and use Nova, then shoot the mech to destroy them. No problem. The assassin shoots us and does a little bit of damage, and we decide to reload and clothesline the assassin. They get a few more shots in until we decide to punch them in the face, and we use overdrive to unload as much damage as possible in the sarcophagus. We deal almost half its HP, and then we make haste and run from all the enemies. However, our weapon mod does its job and gets an execute on the Archon. So when the Mouton shows up, he tries attacking us and we panic him, which is brilliant. The Chosen then shoots us and not too much damage comes our way, so we flank them and get a good bit of damage. We rush to the center and use overdrive to end the assassin. We decide to reload and get one more shot, destroying the sarcophagus. The aliens summon 2 officers, which is a huge relief, but what ends up happening is we take some damage and panic the first officer, and the second officer misses and is also panicked, so it's just the assassin at half HP now. We're holding on by a thread, and I go over to where I think the assassin is, and we spot them and use the flamethrower to burn the assassin and stack on the damage. We then go punch the assassin in the face as they're on fire, and an Advent officer misses us and gets panicked, but ends the fight by throwing a grenade at the pair of us, and Boaty McBoatface survives due to his armor, and the assassin is taken out, so one of the Chosen is now destroyed, and we watch the death scene, which is most excellent. You fought well, assassin, that was extremely close. I dread to think what the other 2 Chosen are going to be like, but fair play, you were a worthy adversary. The enemy has a meeting in their Legion of Doom headquarters, and they now realise Boaty McBoatface is a real threat against them, and he'll never stop until they're defeated. But after our victory, we get a council mission and we need intel extremely badly, so we go ahead and accept it despite Boaty seeing better days. We see the VIP in the mission and we just use a flamethrower to torch everyone and deal heavy damage. It's just absolutely perfect, setting everyone on fire. What's more is our perk proc allows us to get a free Overwatch shot which deals lots of damage to the enemy, but it really does doesn't matter as we go ahead and take some damage, but the Lancer charges in and misses his attack, which isn't good for him. His fellow Flame Trooper torches the area, setting his ally on fire. Good job, by the way. And when it's our turn, we use Nova to hurt the Lancer, and we use Overdrive to run for it. The Lancer dies, and the enemy can't keep up, so we just evac out. Job's a good one. Once back, the Skulljacker is now being researched. It will take 14 days, so we have our time frame, and powered armor has now been completed, and our covert op has come back, so we can now go for the chosen Warlock when we wish. We decide to reduce the avatar's progress with covert ops and build Boti's tier 3 armor, so he's going to have 3 points of armor and be able to intimidate enemies much easier, which is going to be helpful. Our covert ops reduce the avatar progress, keeping it in check, and the skirmishers give us a mission. However, we refuse, as we wish to deal with the chosen Warlock. When we get to the stronghold, we get a wonderful surprise as we miss a lot of our shots and we only get 1 out of 4 shots against the chrysalids. Our answer is to use Overdrive and use a lot of laser beams to kill a couple of chrysalids. We then shut the door and move away a little bit and wait for our cooldown, and then we carefully open the door to allow the animals to come through, and we take our position and use Overdrive once again to destroy 1 chrysalid, and we then hook the other one to destroy them. We then resume our assault on the fortress and we carry on and manage to find another batch of chrysalids. So we overwatch and one of them pops out to only get shot down. A second one pops out and moves next to us and we shoot it dead and get the hair trigger proc. So we overwatch once more and the last chrysalid gets owned by our mech. We spot a statue, which means the ascension gate's here, and we just sprint on in and take the lift to the inner chamber regardless of the enemies present. When we're in the inner sanctum, we go and see how the Warlock is doing. He has his scene and it's time to fight him, so let battle begin, sir. As we begin, we start with a standard exchange and he manages to summon a priest, and the priest attacks us and gets panicked, so it's okay. We stay up high. The Warlock is an idiot as he teleports the priest right next to us and they're panicked, so we retreat to the corner and shoot him. He then tries to shoot us and misses and gets panicked again. He goes back to his corner, we heal up and then blast him in the face. He uses sustain, so another blast sorts it out right on quick. The Warlock comes up to us and doesn't really understand what he's doing, so we hook him in the face for 16 damage, the poor sod. He's become cannon fodder to us, and in response he decides to run away and use Spectral Army. So we go with sniping one of the Spectral soldiers and they come on up and get taken out one by one until the Warlock is left. We get the hair trigger proc and activate Overdrive. The reinforcements are teleported in. We get fairly lucky as we have an Advent heavy mech and a few soldiers. So we decide to blitz the sarcophagus, and once the damage is done, we go ahead and move next to the mech to use our Nova for some free damage. We get our final shot, so the Warlock is resurrected. Now it's time to play defensive to clear up the troops. We use Nova again and take out the mech, and as for the Warlock, he summons Spectrals to attack us. We manage to kill them along with a Spectre. Once we clear house, it's 1v1 against the Warlock once more. We manage to pin the Warlock in a tricky situation as we have 2 shots, which is enough to destroy the sarcophagus, and he's respawned with 25% HP, so we're neck and neck now. When he comes in, we go ahead and hook him in the face, ending this stronghold, and this took over 20 attempts of retrying the stronghold. It wasn't fun and it was extremely difficult to the point where it almost ended the run, but we've cleared it now and it's over, but we have more chosen and the avatars to deal with, so we're not out the woods yet, but that's 2 chosen down with 172 kills. We're going places and you're really something, Mr. McBoatface. With all that excitement over, we decide to go and contact the region of South America. We sight the hunter and we have our ops team on standby. Mr. X has the nerve to say we're not doing a good job. Mr. X, please see our progress so far. We've taken 2 of the chosen out and we're about to take the 3rd out. Anyway, we get the training center online and we can now upgrade our soldier bonds to level 2, making covert ops take 1 less day. We reduced the avatar project by 2 more blocks, so it's no immediate threat to us anymore, and the Skulljack is also researched, so we can do the story mission, but we'll do that after the last chosen is gone. We get a supply raid mission and we ignore it as we want to establish contact at the black site. We decide to staff the comms whilst this is happening, so we can now contact anywhere we please, but the late game is here and this is where we will have some serious problems as a Spark, as we have a hard limit on our capabilities, so we now need to get a move on. Covert Ops comes back and we decide to get straight to part 3 of locating the chosen hunter. We get Guerrilla Ops, and here I decide to take what I think is the easiest mission. So I think destroying the alien relay is the easiest option. So when we get there and get boots on the ground, we go on in and there's a nice flammable container. So we use the flamethrower for some area of effect damage, and we also overdrive so we can take a second shot and run for it. The scuba alien is quite a tanky guy, and the enemy also gets reinforcements. Thankfully, we get a few Overwatch shots off and even take a lance route, so it's not too bad. We shoot a couple of the advent forces that have come in, but on our turn we have to run and get out of there. The house roof is our new position, and a scuba alien misses but gets panicked, which is good. It gives away our position of another enemy, and a Viper decides to do much the same. But our tier 3 armor is also able to intimidate very well. So the Viper tries shooting and misses, and when we decide to flank the scuba alien, we deal a lot of damage. However, an officer does land a hit on us, but he's also intimidated and lands a shot on one of his own guys, killing them outright. On our turn, we decide to kill Scuba Alien and make it go into its second form. We then have a few more bits of damage, and once more we go to the roof and take a few shots. We then have a priest panic and kill the Viper that shot us, and we also use repair and Nova, so everything goes down a level. We can kill the Scuba Alien, and the trooper reloads in front of us, so we get a good one shot and job's a good un. There's an officer outside that we also one shot, so one less enemy. We then just see the Archon King and just no, we're okay. I think we've done enough today. We just simply evac out. Once our covert ops are back, we decide to take out a facility in Chile, and we take myself along as a ranger to be the Skulljack assistant. I'll only be allowed to use the Skulljack, nothing else. If I do this, the run is invalidated and will be an auto fail. So we go in and eliminate a patrol, which is good, and we make sure to spare the officer as we'll need him. He does shoot us but misses, and he gets panicked, which is brilliant. Boaty destroys the last of the turrets by punching one, good job Boaty, and we make sure that our ranger is out the way, doing no harm. We see everything going on and get to the roof and begin laying into the enemy. So we go and skulljack the officer, and when we get it done, the codex shows its face. So we plant the charges and send our ranger out the battle as his job is done. As for Boaty, he gets a crit on the codex, one shot on it, completing our objective. We also proc hair trigger, so we get to the evac, and it's a very close shave, but we did do it. We get a codex brain so we can start researching it, and Mr. X says we've done an excellent job. Thank you, Mr. X. It's over to the Templar HQ so our Sparky boy can heal up quicker. We also rip out the training centre and put in the shadow chamber so we can start progressing to the endgame. Guerrilla Ops decides to rear its head, and we go to hack the alien workstation in an Advent facility, but the sitrep is that the Advent have left the area, only leaving the Lost. So these missions are getting very difficult, so this is a welcome addition as we've had to retry missions a lot, and when we get in, it's actually super easy as we just jump on top of a bus stop and the hordes of the Lost are amassing. We go ahead and dash towards the objective and we get what we need. Once everything concludes, we use Nova to clear a path, and when that's done, we call the Sky Ranger and evac out, which is a marvellous mission done. We get the warsuit research, and we also get the shadow chamber up and running. We get results in from our advanced heavy weapons research, and we have a Shredstorm cannon. There's nothing left for us to power up Boaty McBoatface, so we go into the last chosen stronghold as he's all healed up. The difficulty curve is really adding up now, and it's only a matter of time before we hit a roadblock. But when we get to the last chosen stronghold, it's a very interesting experience as we find a scuba alien, 3 codexes and some soldiers as well, which is interesting. However, in the next room we find the Ascension Gate and get the hell out of this hellscape. Now we're in the Inner Sanctum and it's time to face the Hunter. We have a few exchanges and we get a big chunk of damage against the Hunter as we use Overdrive to deplete his health massively. In response, the Hunter summons 3 troopers against us and grapple hooks away to grenade us. That doesn't really do anything, so we go up next to it and shoot him out of the equation. However, after a few attempts, it's no use. The Chosen Fortress keeps getting overrun due to the Hunters summoning troopers. So we're going to have to face the Chosen in the final mission due to us not being able to finish this mission, which is unfortunate, but the Hunter just keeps healing and overrunning us. There's just simply too many units and they just keep stacking on the damage. After the Chosen Stronghold, the cutscene plays where we see the Codex get a bit jumpy, which is hilarious as it breaks everything. We also get an upgraded flamethrower called a Hellfire Projector, which is awesome as we reloaded before the Stronghold was assaulted, so the research gave us a different weapon, which is fine. Anyway, we get to Guerrilla Ops and we decide to counter the armor, which is good, but it's not so good that the enemy have really good units. So we get to the objective and we see an Andromedon, and it does a great job at shutting us down. However, we are in for a rude awakening as a sector pod shows up, which is not good. So we go and do the only thing we can do, and we try a lot, but we are simply outclassed. We do decide to continue without the guerrilla ops, which is not ideal as all the dark events happen, so it really isn't a good sign. However, we are getting very close to unlocking the final mission, so we managed to get the Shadow Chambers research complete, and we get a VIP mission where we have a Skulljack assistant helping us out. We try many attempts in this mission, and we do get to the point where we can spawn the avatar from a codex. However, when we go against the avatar, it's not really happening. It is possible for certain, but it just regenerates too many hit points and teleports everywhere. Quite frankly, the mech is struggling to keep up. We do come pretty close to taking it out, but the avatar's regen is very difficult to contend with, and taking 3 of these guys out in the final mission and the hunter being able to swarm us with a lot of units on the battlefield, well, I think it's fair to say we know what the answer is to the original question, but we'll keep on rolling until it's simply too difficult. However, the avatar proves it can just do 8 damage and hit us 100% of the time. So unfortunately, without breaking the rules, I have to concede here. Not because the mech is bad, but simply because this is the 3rd attempt on the campaign, and running a mech simply doesn't have enough action economy or damage. So can you beat XCOM 2 with a mech? And the answer is no. No, you can't, at least not on Commander difficulty. So there we go. I respectfully admit defeat. Okay, that was quite a fun run and also very interesting. We ran into a few problems during the late game, and that is simply we didn't deal enough damage and things just hit us way too hard. But in the early game we were a wrecking ball and we were king. However, as soon as the Advent Heavy Mech showed up, yeah, that was a different story. We also have to beat the Chosen quickly. Not that it's impossible, but the mech not having access to the training center really hurts us, and only having 2 weapon slots, yeah, it makes the challenge very difficult. However, next week's challenge, we're going back to XCOM Enemy Within, as playing XCOM 2 was a blast, and as always, I've kind of got the XCOM bug, so next week's challenge will be, can we try and beat XCOM Enemy Within with a single mech? It'll be interesting, it's always cool, so we'll give Boaty McBoatface a second try. It'll be cool to see Dr. Shen and Dr. Varlin and a younger Bradford, but as with everything, thank you for watching everybody. You guys are the greatest. Like the video if you like the video, comment down below even if you wish to just say hello or how you doing, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you everyone, have a fantastic day and a lovely evening. This is Insane Frame, signing off. Laylas everyone.
There you go.